Hello my friends, it's Gabriel with The Last Huntsman Outdoors here with another knife review. I'm going to be doing a review on the Fallkniven S1X. This is the first Fallkniven I've ever tested and reviewed. This one kind of interested me because it is actually a true full tang and not the rubberized, just overmolded handle. Now I have to give a kudos to and a shout out to John with Heavy Set Tactical. He lended me this knife for testing and review. So be sure to check him out on Instagram and YouTube. He has a pretty nice channel and he's pumping out a lot of reviews and shorts and stuff. So thank you for lending this out to me, Heavy Set Tactical. Now we'll get to the review. All right, so here's the Fallkniven S1X. It is a laminated COS type of steel. Now, I've never really used a Fallkniven. I've never really used a laminated steel. It does have a zero grind convex grind, so that is pretty neat. It does have quite a neat looking overall profile. It's made in Sweden, has slight little drop kind of clip point hybrid to it, and the sheath is a little lackluster. It's just basically a plastic sheath with this little tab thing to kind of lock it in. It's kind of an awkward sheath to use, but overall the knife itself is pretty slick. All right, so here I have the Fallkniven S1X. I have a hard time saying that, so if I mess it up, bear with me. It is laminated steel, it's stainless, but it is also pretty thick. It's like a 1/4 inch thick. So we're gonna do some batoning. It's a 5-inch blade, so it's not gonna be like any heavy duty batoner, but it'll handle, or should handle, anything that's about this size here. Has kind of a medium convex grind. Thus far, it is seeming like it's popping that cedar apart. But the main thing about a convex grind is to just not try to get too much into it. Just let that edge barely glide along. But it does some feathers really good, actually. Another little task I'm going to do is I'm just going to do some slicing. I'm kind of trying to get a real good feel for the ergonomics here. And with that convex grind, it wants to bite, and wants to bite really good. This would be like an awesome little camp knife. Has decent little guard on there. Could potentially make a decent soldier knife too. And we might get into that later. But it does slice really good. Will say the ergonomics, the overall handle shape is really good, but it is really thin. And I got medium-sized hands, but it is a thin handle. I feel like if they actually made these scales just a little thicker, it would feel a lot better. Because I actually feel like the handle shape is decent. It just doesn't feel the hand very good, but it is not too bad. And it does slice really good. All right, another test I'm going to do with the Fallkniven S1X is I'm going to just do some notches here. Now I'm going to do some cross-grain batoning. Oh, square notch there, and do a little tent stick notch. Pretty decent. Now let's try some cross grain batoning here. So this is a 5-inch little blade. It's kind of in what I would consider that camp belt knife kind of size. It's not going to be a real heavy chopper by no means, but it can do some light little stuff for sure. And if you had to, you could always use the like batoning method to kind of take down something a little bigger if you had to. With the Fallkniven S1X, one of the things obviously I always like to try to talk about is the sheath that they come with. And I'm going to say for this expensive of a knife, and I'll try to annotate what the price range is on these knives. I haven't looked them up for a little while, but these are expensive knives. And I will say the sheath, though, is absolutely atrocious with these knives. The belt loop, pretty chintzy. The whole sheath is chintzy. The belt loop here, though, you can't obviously put it on without taking your belt off, which is kind of annoying, honestly. And something else to take note on, too, is you can't pull the knife out unless you pull this little tab over all the way, and then you kind of have to like finagle it a little bit even just to get the knife to come out of the sheath. And of course, even with the little locking tab on, it does rattle a lot. So me personally, I think for this expensive of a knife, the sheath is definitely a big loss on it. So if this was my knife, I would definitely be looking into replacing the sheath with something else. I'd probably get a custom Kydex maker. Now, something else I want to point out with the S1X here, and I don't know if the camera is going to pick up on this, but as you can see, yeah, the handle is actually kind of, even though I like the overall appearance of it, I think it's a gorgeous knife, but I think they need to revamp these and make the scales just a little thicker and give them some like micarta or G10, especially if they're worried about more of like the cold and wet and everything like that. I think that would definitely work better than whatever the hell these scales are. Here I have the Fallkniven S1X. I'm going to kind of see how well it can be as for like a potential soldier / tactical knife. So, got my bad guy here. Hey, wait a second. All right. Don't get too feisty on me, okay? Don't get beat, because it's going to take a little while to get this knife out of the sheath. All right, now I'm ready for the fight, right? All right, let's give it a try here. All right. Try some basic stabbing. Does stab pretty well. The rubbery type of handle scales, I don't really feel like I want to slip. That guard is very fine though. Like, I don't know if I totally just trust that guard. I do feel like I almost want to slip a little bit. Let's just see how it does in hand though. So it is pretty quick. light and fast in hand. So I would say overall it actually would make a decent soldier knife. Just don't trust the sheath at all. It does have a sharp spine on there. I'm not going to really worry about getting a fire started out here in the woods right now, but it does actually have a pretty decent sharp spine. So if that's something that you're looking for, it would perform that pretty well. All right, so I'm going to wrap up my overall thoughts on the Fallkniven S1X. It's a beautiful knife, I will say that. I think the steel is pretty interesting. I don't know if I would like put it through some like super hard use, because from what I've seen, the laminated steel can be a little on the chippy side, but I personally haven't had much experience with that. So, you know, do as you may type of thing. The ergonomics, the handle scales are a little on the thin side, but the overall profile of the handle is actually pretty nice. So if they just made the handle scales a little thicker, and I will say that I am getting a little bit of weird splitting from the handle there, so that kind of sucks. I actually think Fallkniven, for the money, they definitely need to upgrade their handle scales for this. I would say make it more of like a micarta or G10 and go with the same like kind of checkering on it. That's pretty cool. I like the checkering. The sheath is absolute garbage. Like, this is probably one of the worst sheaths I've ever used on a knife. So especially for the cost of one of these, I think that it should have a really nice Kydex type of sheath, and this sheath kind of sucks. And I know some people are going to come into the comments and like try to justify it and be like, well, in Sweden, blah, 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 blah. I don't care, okay? I've been in pretty cold, wet environments before. I've never had any problem with a good made Kydex sheath. So I don't really care what you got to say on that. The sheath freaking sucks. Overall, would I suggest this knife? I like it, but I think there are some better ones for the money. But if you are just like a Fallkniven fanboy, go for it. But with all that being said, be prepared both physically and spiritually. God bless, and carry on.